are all in. I don't know. I think it's wonderful. I am so proud of all of you, and congratulations a million times over. So our first question is going to be for writer. Actually, no, I lied. We're not going to do a first question yet. I'm going to introduce who everyone is. First we have Carson Rayfuse, who was assistant director, and then we have Achilles Friesen, director and writer of the show. Jonas Swain, who played Bo. Rebecca Dudgeon, who played Vivian. Muggs Kingham, who played Nisa, and Ahonia Sanyal, who I believe was ensemble and swing. Did I make that up?
I am on ensemble and swing for these three, yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, now our first question for Achilles is what is the biggest way the script has evolved from the first draft, maybe the one that some of us were reading a few months ago, to where it is now?
Oh, wow. I think the biggest change came with me changing as a person.
Okay.
I think I first wrote it like last summer, and I was very fortunate to have people read it and stuff. And I think hearing your own words said back to you makes you reflect on what your words are. And I think there's a part of me that was like, what is the message I want to be saying, and what is the message that I wrote down? And so yeah, I think the biggest change, besides like, the ending changed. I actually submitted a different ending as a proposal, and then I sat down and wrote a new one. Just lots of stuff, I think. The biggest change was me, and the script followed, I think.
I love that. I think that's wonderful. Our next question is for Ahona, and we were curious about the ensemble building that kind of went into creating God as a figure in this play.
Yeah, it was a lot of movement at first, and then a voice followed. We had individual lines spoken at full volume by some actors, and then the other ensemble members would whisper underneath, so it seemed very layered. And the movement of God was very fluid, very complex, a lot of different things to seem like a lot of different faces and eyes.
Absolutely. I don't know, it made me think of all the biblically accurate angel memes. I really enjoyed it. Our next question is for Muggs. I wrote in my notes physicality of baby. That's not what I meant. Casey put it much, much nicer. Finding the influences of childhood and innocence while being able to maintain the weight of this admittedly pretty heavy story, and how that was brought into your character emotionally, physically.
Yeah. So I think a lot of stuff that worked best for me was kind of mirroring, there's so many layers to this show, and I learned something new every rehearsal. And I just tried to channel that because Nisa also is constantly learning and going on new adventures and doing new things. And the best way that I found to portray that is just by letting myself be so naturally this childlike curiosity. I think really fueled a lot of it. Yeah.
Lovely. Our next one is for Jonas. In my opinion, anyways, Bo often proves the most humanizing, relatable, and maybe just down-to-earth character, especially of the main three. And we were curious about what the experience of building that character was like for you.
Well, it was a little tough because Bo is very similar to me, and I have to separate out the aspects of me that I wanted in Bo and the aspects of Bo that I didn't want to mix with my own life. Because there's a lot in Bo that I don't want to take home.
Right.
So this is a hard question. I will say. It was a lot of actually staring at the stars and pondering. When I was after rehearsal, I'd go home and I'd try to think like this boy who really desperately wants to find the answers to everything. Stare up at the universe and try to conceptualize how small I am in all of it. And then bring it all together with just a little bit of my own humor and my own experiences. And when I'm speaking real to the audience, similar to how I speak to my friends versus contemplative. I think it's definitely two sides to him in that way, and
For sure.
I have to flip flop a lot.
Yeah, I imagine this was a pretty like difficult play in terms of like not bringing the characters home with you. There's a question I have later on about that, but we're not there yet. Because my next question is for Carson, way on the end over there. And I was curious if you have any details or favorite moments of this show that nobody's like picked up on yet or mentioned to you.
Oh, that's a great question. I think a lot of what ended up being my favorite moments were kind of moments that happened by accident or happened as a result of collaboration. This was a very collaborative show to work on, which is always very exciting. And I think so. Some of my favorite moments are some of the kind of like smaller jokes that got in there from like just joking around or talking at rehearsal. I think there's a really beautiful moment you only get if you're on the stage right side, where one of our ensemble members is helping Nisa and teaching Nisa how to do Stella Ella Ola. And it was a moment that you only get if you're on the certain side of the stage, and I think that's something that I saw it and I thought it was a beautiful moment, and it wasn't something that we had scripted, it wasn't something we worked on, it was something that our actors came with, and it just worked really well, and I thought it was really beautiful. And again, you only got it from a certain perspective, so it took advantage of the thrust staging in that regard. So yeah, that was one of my personal favorites.
Wonderful. My next question is for Rebecca, and I was curious again on that like emotional bringing the characters home and kind of relating to them about how you came to balance Vivian's like guilt and vulnerability as a character versus like her moments of anger and sass almost that she exhibits.
Yeah, Vivian wasn't a very interesting character to take on because arguably she can be dislikable at times because she does say horrible things, and I think part of it is just like with her traumatic upbringing, she hasn't had a chance to fix those thought process. And so finding a stage where she can be still human and vulnerable to the audience and still have a side of her that is likable and relatable, that was really hard. And Achilles and I talked about it before, and like trying more to tap into the fact that she is only 15. It was a big part of it.
Right. She's a baby. Like, you know, I know, it's a lot. And then another question that was mentioned to us for Ahona. People were curious about the experience of being a swing, if you have anything to say on that.
Oh my god. It was my first time being a swing. And it was fun, but also very, very difficult because I was the swing for these main three, and I know the whole script by heart. So it was a lot of getting Achilles to rehearse with me because we're roommates, and they cast me as the swing. So it was the least they could do. But it was very fun. I'm glad that I got a chance to experience that. I feel like I learned a lot.
Lovely. Oh, that's so nice.
Oh my god.
Okay, and then our last question is for anyone who has thoughts on this, who wants to chime in. There's some deep moments of very physical and emotional trust that I imagine you all had to put into each other, with each other into this play. I know the other day I was walking to the box office and I saw everyone having a little cast picnic in the lobby. It was very sweet. And we were wondering how you kind of came to build that community for your cast, like how you got where you got. Yeah.
This has been such an exceptional cast to work with. I feel like from day one, everyone is just always so open and caring, and there was already that layer of trust there. And then we added a lot of trust falls into it, and sharing those tender moments with your castmates, like the little picnic we had in the atrium, finding those little moments where you can bond as humans outside of the show, so that you just trust each other so much in the show. I think, this has been one of my favorite casts.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a lot of praise between us after each rehearsal and during the breaks. Just a lot of complimenting each other on what we explored and discovered, and a lot of reassuring in case anyone felt like they weren't getting something right. It was very close. It was very accepting, and we were fine with being vulnerable with each other, which was very, very nice.
I don't know, it was so nice to even just being out there, like just outside the theater, and you all kind of came out in this big like circle of supporting each other. And it was so nice to see because we all know there are casts where that doesn't happen. There are shows where you can't really reach that point, and it's just very lovely. And I think it came through in the show. And good job to all of you. Oh my god. On behalf of the Theater Arts Society, we would like to thank you all for taking the time to join us today and answer some of the questions that your audience had. We really value your time and effort, and we really appreciate you being here today. The Theater Arts Society can be found on both Instagram and Facebook at Theater Arts Society. That's where you can find information on what's coming up in the drama department and in the new Lethbridge drama community. I'd once again like to congratulate this cast for an amazing run, and thank you all for taking the time to tune into our talkbacks. Keep an eye out for the drama department's main stage performance of A Night at the Grand Guignol and the talkback that will be happening for that show. Thank you and have a wonderful night.
So long.